Today I'm going to talk about this really fascinating social experiment that I found online. So, as humans, we tend to overestimate the control we have over our own emotions. So, let me clarify it a bit. So, imagine you are this person. I really hope not, but imagine you are this. And you feel very sad one day or anxious one day, and you think it is your own fault, that it is because you don't have sufficient control over your emotions. That is why you're feeling this way and you're worried about it. But maybe you didn't realize that today was a particularly very sunny day, and that's why the heat, the sweat, the humidity, along with everything else, was affecting your emotions so much that you are feeling stressed out. So it is not really your fault, but the environment's. So there was this social experiment that was done to clarify this matter a lot more, and it was done in a public transportation place. Let's imagine a train station. So the social experiment had three components: our subject, which can be any random stranger in the public transportation place, our researcher, and finally a volunteer to help our researcher. So here's how it went. The volunteer approached the subject with either a hot cup of coffee or a cold cup of coffee, and the volunteer asked the subject that whether he or she could hold the coffee for him while he tied his shoes. So most of the volunteers usually say yes while the subject tied his shoes, and then the volunteer said thanks, and then he walked away. As soon as the volunteer walked away, the researcher went to the subject and asked a few questions about how that subject felt about the volunteer and to rate that subject's certain personality traits. So, for instance, how friendly the subject looked, or how funny the subject looked, or how warm the subject looked, how confident the subject looked, and like a few traits. To be more specific, I think you could look into the social experiment online to be sure of what exact traits they were focusing on. And the result of this study was rather fascinating. So what happened was that subjects rated the people or the volunteers holding the bringing the hot coffee to the subject far more in those traits than the subjects holding the or bringing the cold coffee to the volunteers. So what they meant is that when the subject was asked to hold the hot coffee, he associated or she associated those warm feelings inside with the volunteer in question, and that's why rated the volunteer more happy, more warm, more friendly. Whereas when the subject was told to hold the cold coffee, he or she rated the volunteer more like, let's say, cold, not friendly, not hospitable, and etc. So what it means is that our environment has far more impact on our emotions and also our perception of other human beings than we think. So what I came to the conclusion about this study is that whenever you're feeling down, when you're feeling not really well, don't always think that it is your fault and that is your emotion is out of control. Always try to look around towards the environment to see whether it's too hot or whether it's too cold or whether it is too sweaty or humid or whether it's storming outside, and whether it's a very busy and noisy place, and then try to go to a relaxed place, to the more comfortable place, and then re-evaluate your emotions, and you might actually find out that you feel a lot better now. I hope you enjoyed this experiment, and yeah, I hope it will add some significant value to your lives. Thank you.